Imagine closing your eyes and letting the sounds of time carry you back, returning to the late Pleistocene epoch, roughly 50,000 to 70,000 years ago. An ancient, pristine tropical coastline of the Sundaland landmass emerges through the mist. In that place, there are no traces of modern cities, no glowing campfires from prehistoric villages, nor any man-made structures whatsoever. There is only the deep, thunderous roar of ocean waves crashing against the coral reef, winds heavy with the salty tang of the sea, and towering palm trees swaying in the endless expanse. On the damp beach, a mysterious spherical object washes ashore. Its outer layer is fibrous, weathered by salt water and scorching sun, as hard as a boulder. Today, we call it a coconut, known scientifically as Cocos nucifera. We hold a plastic cup of chilled coconut water, slip in a small straw, and enjoy it as a matter of course in our daily lives. But stripped of modern familiarity, a coconut is actually a formidable biological fortress, a giant seed perfectly engineered by nature to survive thousands of nautical miles across open ocean. The mystery lies here. How did prehistoric humans, creatures with no metal tools, no instruction manuals, relying solely on instinct and curiosity, manage to crack this fortress? Who was the first to smash that rock-hard wooden shell to reach the crystal-clear liquid hidden within? In archaeological science, tracing a technological invention like a stone axe or fire control is complex enough. But finding evidence of the very first time a liquid was consumed is nearly impossible for researchers. Coconut water is an organic fluid. According to the principles of taphonomy, the science of how organisms decay and fossilize, it leaves no bones, does not turn to stone, and evaporates or decomposes completely via microorganisms within hours of exposure to air. No cave painting from prehistory records that moment. No fossil preserves a single drop of water from tens of thousands of years ago. Yet, by combining behavioral archaeology, evolutionary biology, and plant genetic analysis, scientists can reconstruct this paleontological cold case through compelling forensic deduction. The brain of Homo sapiens during this era had already reached a volume equivalent to modern humans. They were not passive, primitive creatures, but master observers of their ecological environment. As they moved along tropical coastlines, they scanned their surroundings with the sharp acuity of apex hunter-gatherers. And nature always leaves clues through the behavior of other species. On coastal islands, prehistoric humans certainly observed the coconut crab, scientifically known as Birgus latro, the largest terrestrial arthropod in the world. With immense crushing force in its powerful pincers, generating thousands of newtons, the coconut crab can tear through the fibrous husk and puncture the germination pores to feed on the flesh and drink the liquid inside. Humans also witnessed forest rodents, primates, or seabirds gathering around coconuts that had shattered after falling 20 meters onto jagged coral rocks. In the prehistoric mind, a biological equation was instantly established. A hard-shelled object combined with applied force reveals a hidden source of nutrition. To understand why this discovery was a monumental breakthrough, we must examine the structure of a coconut through the lens of plant biology. A coconut is not a typical fruit like an apple or a strawberry, which evolved to be eaten by animals and dispersed through digestive tracts. A coconut is a water dispersal mechanism. Its structure consists of three distinct protective layers. The outermost exocarp is smooth and completely waterproof. The fibrous middle layer, the mesocarp, contains countless air pockets that allow the coconut to float across oceans for months. Beneath that lies the endocarp, an inner shell made of wood hardened with lignin, protecting the embryo inside. The coconut water we drink is liquid endosperm. In the early stages of the seed's development, cells divide without forming cell walls, creating a nutrient-filled solution designed to nourish the plant embryo. Young coconut water is virtually sterile, shielded by its hard shell away from bacteria and environmental toxins. It contains high concentrations of essential electrolyte ions, like potassium, sodium, magnesium, and calcium, alongside natural sugars and essential amino acids. This solution possesses an osmotic pressure remarkably similar to human blood serum. For an exhausted, dehydrated prehistoric human, after days of trekking under the scorching coastal sun, where fresh water from streams was extremely scarce or contaminated, a young coconut was nothing short of a single-body biological hydration flask, sealed by nature. But how did prehistoric humans know this water was safe? In the natural world, unfamiliar wild fruits with strange colors or shapes often pack lethal toxins. Evolutionary psychology reveals that humans of that era possessed two parallel traits: a fear of new foods and a curious drive to find new nutrients. To survive, they developed a remarkably cautious biological testing protocol. First came smell. When a coconut cracked and leaked fluid after a severe storm, a human approached and sniffed it. The aroma of fresh coconut water contains subtle aromatic compounds, completely different from the sour fermentation of rotting fruit or the pungent bitterness of toxic plant sap. Next was contact tasting. They dabbed a tiny drop onto the tip of their tongue. The human tongue has taste receptors, acutely sensitive to bitterness, nature's warning sign for toxins. Coconut water, instead, delivered a light, refreshing sweetness. Finally, they drank a minuscule amount and waited hours to observe their body's reaction. When no symptoms of vomiting or abdominal pain appeared, this vital knowledge was immediately encoded into the community's survival memory. Still, while fresh coconut water was extraordinary, a massive physical barrier remained. Naturally cracked coconuts were rare occurrences. Relying solely on luck after storms meant a severely limited supply. To proactively access this water source, humans had to make a giant leap in technological thinking, harnessing indirect impact force. A mature coconut can withstand immense compressive force. If you simply throw it onto sand, the fibrous husk acts as a natural shock absorber, dispersing the kinetic energy and keeping the inner shell intact. Prehistoric humans discovered this mechanical principle through a series of failed trials. Using teeth or fingernails was impossible against the tightly woven fibers. Dropping it from heights onto soft earth yielded nothing as the energy dissipated. Until they discovered the anvil and hammerstone technique. By placing the coconut on a sharp coral rock serving as an anvil and striking it forcefully with a heavy cobblestone hammer directly at the germination pores, the biological weak spot of the hard shell, they created a controlled fracture. A sharp snap echoed out. The wooden shell split open, and the crystal-clear liquid immediately spilled onto the sand. That was not merely the discovery of a drink. Archaeologically, it marked a historic milestone. Humanity mastering mechanical energy to conquer a plant's protective armor. Humans no longer waited for nature's handouts. They used intellect and tools to shatter nature's fortress. The mystery of the coconut tree does not end on ancient beaches. It expands across the vast scale of the world's oceans. When mapping the genetic code of modern coconuts, plant geneticists uncovered a striking revelation. Global coconut populations belong to two distinctly separate genetic lineages. The first lineage developed around the Indian Ocean, bearing the hallmarks of natural dispersal. Coconuts fell into the sea, drifted along deep ocean currents, washed ashore, and germinated on their own. Fruits from this lineage are typically round, with thick fibrous husks to maintain buoyancy. The second lineage dominates the Pacific Ocean, carrying clear genetic signatures of human intervention. The DNA of the Pacific lineage reveals thousands of years of selective breeding. Thinner husks, greater liquid capacity, sweeter taste, and shells that are much easier to open. Between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago, Austronesian seafaring communities embarked on what is considered the greatest maritime migration in human history. They built modest outrigger canoes to navigate thousands of nautical miles across the vast Pacific, discovering and settling islands from the Philippines and Indonesia to Fiji, Samoa, and distant Hawaii. The ocean is a saltwater desert. Drinking seawater means death by kidney failure. How did these ancient navigators survive months at sea without metal containers or modern technology? Young coconuts served as their ultimate life support system. A young coconut is a flawless water canteen. It is completely sealed, impervious to salt water even when submerged in the sea. The fibrous husk protects the liquid inside from bacteria and impacts. Unopened, coconut water stays fresh for 4 to 8 weeks without spoiling. Prehistoric sailors stowed hundreds of coconuts in the holds of their canoes. They didn't just carry coconuts as emergency rations. They carried the seeds of life itself. Upon stepping onto a barren, newly formed volcanic island, their very first act was to bury coconuts in the sand. A perfect co-evolutionary symbiosis was forged. Humans helped the coconut spread across oceans, and the coconut provided the vital sustenance for humans to survive and expand across the globe. The discovery of coconut water extended far beyond a refreshing drink. It unlocked a cascade of ecological innovations that transformed the coconut into the tree of life across coastal cultures. When the coconut is young, its water provides rich electrolytes. As it matures, the liquid recedes and the meat thickens, becoming an invaluable source of lipids, protein, and energy. Once stripped, soaked in seawater, and sun-dried, the fibrous husk yields remarkably durable ropes resistant to saltwater corrosion. These cords were used to construct shelters, lash hunting spears, and secure sails on ocean-crossing canoes. The hard shell, once emptied of meat and water, became humanity's first bowls, cups, and water dippers long before the art of pottery was born. Fallen trunks were repurposed into structural posts, while dried fronds were woven into thatched roofs to ward off tropical downpours. The coconut palm became a miniature ecosystem in itself, satisfying every fundamental survival need for coastal human communities. The identity of the first person to drink coconut water will likely remain forever buried beneath the sediment of time. It might have been a lost prehistoric hunter, throat parched with exhaustion on a desolate strip of sand. It might have been a young mother, desperately seeking clean water for her child during a coastal drought. Or perhaps it was simply a curious child who picked up a cracked coconut after a storm and tasted the liquid trickling onto their fingers. Their names were erased long before history was recorded in words. But their act of curiosity and courage still echoes through the millennia. Every time we insert a straw into a chilled coconut today, few realize we are repeating a gesture that has endured for tens of thousands of years. That sweet, subtle flavor remains virtually unchanged since it first touched the lips of an ancient human ancestor. The only thing that has changed is the world around us. From small nomadic tribes dwelling beneath tropical canopies, humanity has built megacities, ocean liners, and modern laboratories. Driven by observation, experimentation, and an unyielding will to survive, humanity rose to master the planet. Yet the gift of the coconut tree remains as pure as it was at the dawn of time. Human history often remembers kings, battles, and grand inventions. Yet so many momentous turning points began with the simplest discoveries. And a single cracked coconut on an ancient beach taught humanity a profound truth. Nature always hides its greatest treasures behind its roughest and most unyielding fortresses.